and welcome to a brand new episode of my podcast, Podcast Racing. Today, I'm going to be talking about summer 2021 for movies. Has summer 2021 saved cinema? I will be answering that question with my really good friends who I haven't spoken to in a while. Cece, how are you doing?
I'm great. Thanks for having me back. I always love being on the podcast, so I am very excited to see what we come up with today.
Yeah, I'm really happy that you're back on the podcast too, and I'm excited to talk about, for the most part, movies that have come out in theaters in summer of 2021. Obviously, last year during the summer, we were still relatively new with the pandemic, and vaccines haven't been out yet, and all that stuff. So there were no movie theaters. There was no going to the movies last summer. But this summer, some big movies have come out. Many big movies just in theaters, but some movies decide to do both theater and streaming. And we'll get into more of that later. And I have already gone real in depth into that on a previous episode of the podcast. But excuse me, but I'm going to be talking about mostly movies that have come out in theaters during the summer. But first, I wanted to just ask you, before we talk about the specific movies, do you feel as if summer 2021 has been really good for cinema or not?
I I guess I think so. I mean, I feel like it's hard to say it could have been bad because since there was just nothing going on last year, it's been pretty awesome to be able to go actually to the movie theater. And I know a lot of people were sort of worried that movie theaters would die. And it's been really great to go back. And I think a lot of people missed that experience. So just the fact of them being open has been really awesome. So I feel yeah, I mean, were all the movies the best movie ever? I don't think so. But was it just a good experience and great to see that we were able to go back to the movies fairly safely? Yeah, I was really excited about that.
Yeah, me too. I really love the theater experience. I do understand studios, decision to. I'm more sympathetic towards studios' decision to release movies to streaming or do a hybrid method. I'm more so sympathetic to that, more so than most film lovers or directors or cinephiles are. Like a majority of people were like, "Oh no, like theaters only." But I was like, "We're still dealing with the pandemic, people. Like, come on, be a little bit more sympathetic here." But I get that. But I at the same time though, I just love going to that theater so much. Like the biggest screen, the best surround sound system. Like nothing can replace that kind of experience for me.
Yeah, I totally agree. I feel like a lot of movies actually this summer I've watched on streaming instead of in the theater, and I have appreciated that, especially for films that maybe I wouldn't have been so excited about that I would go pay money to see them in the theater. It's cool that they're doing sort of a hybrid, but I totally agree. Just the experience of going to the movies is something that's super special and a really cool way to see something great, but also relax and have it's sort of just an awesome. You get the food, you get a giant screen, get to sit in your special seat. I don't know. It's something that I wouldn't want to fully go away. So I totally agree with you.
Yeah, no, yeah, definitely. And this isn't sponsored by the way, but I really love the seats at Cinemark. Cinemark, in my opinion, has the most comfortable seats out of all of the theaters I've been to in my life.
All
But
right, I'll have to try it.
yeah, but there's a Regal theater that is pretty good image and sound quality, but that's really close to my house, but the seats are just kind of uncomfortable, honestly. But first, I wanted to talk about a movie that actually went directly to streaming. And in my opinion, this movie could have done really well if it was released in theaters on Disney Plus, Luca.
Yeah.
What did you think of Luca?
I really, really liked it. I watched it with my family, and I didn't know what was going to happen, but it was truly like a great mix of a lot of stuff for me personally, at least, because I studied Italian in school, and so it was very fun to see like them speaking little bits of Italian and like just seeing sort of like the ambiance. But also, I really liked the storyline. I was sort of the ending I found sort of confusing. I don't know if a lot of people felt that way, but I really liked that, well, I guess it's been long enough that I'm not really doing any spoilers here. The fact that like it was a lot of characters were very queer coded, and it was like just really cool to see that play out in an animated Disney movie. Like I don't know, it was really cool. So I really liked it. I did find the ending sort of weird. I don't know how you feel about it, so maybe we can talk about it. I don't know. What are your thoughts?
So before I continue, I will say that we will be spoiling every movie that we mention. We will be spoiling, so I'll try to include, the names of the movies that we mentioned in the description below. So just a big spoiler warning for every movie that we mention. So we'll mention the name of the movie first, obviously, and then if it's a movie that you really want to see but haven't yet, just fast forward. So I thought Luca was a lot of fun. It was very charming, very cute, but it's a Pixar movie. And in terms of Pixar standards, it was definitely one of the weaker Pixar movies, in my opinion. It was a little underwhelming at times, and the whole subplot with the parents going on lands and pouring water on all the kids to try to discover their son, I just thought was really reckless and irresponsible. And like, yeah, it's funny, but like you're inadvertently trying to expose your son not just to yourself but to the whole world in this town where their main export is like killing fish. You really
Yeah.
want to do that to your son? Like, what's wrong with you guys?
Totally, totally.
Yeah, and I don't know. I don't know. I just found certain characters to be either a bit underdeveloped or a little bit annoying. And I thought that, the animation is very pretty, and I really liked the two like main characters. Occasionally, like they got a bit like but for the most part, I liked those characters. I really liked Julia, and
Yeah.
her dad a lot. That mean cat is adorable, and yeah, I think that it could have done pretty well in theaters though. Like I understand the logic behind Disney just releasing it on Disney Plus, but I don't know. I thought that it could have done. I thought that if they had waited and then released it, like sometime in like June or July, it could have done pretty well, I think.
Yeah, I agree. I think it would have done awesome in theaters, but also I guess the downside is like a lot of kids like can't be vaccinated or couldn't be vaccinated, so a lot of parents might have like not taken their kids, and since it was like
Right.
that was like meant to be the audience. Although I like as like a I don't know, as like a person in like the 20s demographic, I really liked it, but I feel like yeah, that might have been the only thing that would have been difficult about releasing it in theaters, because I feel like yeah, a lot of like theatrical releases that I can think of recently, like they haven't really released any like younger demographic like movies recently in theaters. Most of it has been like teenagers and up, and maybe that's like part of it. I don't know though.
I mean, there was the Paw Patrol movie that was released in theaters and Paramount Plus on the same day. So, Paw Patrol fans out there on Nick Jr., yay. No, but yeah, no, I think that Luca, I think that some people are exaggerating when they say that they felt as if the queerness in Luca was too like subtle, and there were some people that wanted like the Luca to be more explicitly queer and like homosexual. But I don't know. I thought it was fine the way that it was, but I do agree with those that say that it should have been released in theaters because I think it could have done well.
Yeah, I thought it was really cool. Sort of I guess because I didn't know what it was gonna be like going into it. So like getting
Yeah.
in and then seeing these two young guys like running away together and like sort of their relationship like transforming and like growing. I really liked it, and I thought it was really cool how it sort of it felt pretty like I don't know, natural, how like it was sort of not clear at first what was going on, and as it went on, you know, it got more explicit. I really liked that. I don't know. I guess maybe some people have different opinions about that, but I thought it was awesome and really, really like natural and very, very cute and well done. At least to me.
I think the movie's pretty good by like DreamWorks or like Illumination standards, but by Pixar standards, it was just a little like I think I hyped it up too much because of the brands, because of the name
Yeah.
behind it. Like Pixar is, like Pixar is like its own brands now. It has its own like recognition because of like Toy Story and Incredibles and Wall-E.
Yeah.
But I don't know, like I maybe I just like went in with it with too high of expectations.
Okay, fair, fair, yeah.
We're gonna get into actual like summer really soon, but I want to talk about a couple of other movies that were released in May. Both of these actually to theaters: Cruella and A Quiet Place Part Two. Have you seen either one of those?
I have not seen either one of those, so go on.
All right, well, I'll be really brief then. Cruella was flawed but fun. It's supposed to be an origin story for 101 Dalmatians, but it's kind of more of a soft reboot without spoiling anything. It was a ton of fun watching this movie. I could care less about fashion, honestly, but watching this movie about a young Cruella de Vil and Emma Thompson playing one of the most evil people I've seen in a Disney movie ever, delightfully evil though, is just, it was a fun time. Not a movie that I really want to watch like over and over again, but if a group of my friends and I come together and they're like, oh, let's watch Cruella, I wouldn't object. I really enjoyed A Quiet Place Part 2. Not as good as the first one, but I'm really glad that Paramount stuck to releasing it in theaters. And of course, just like the first one, the editing and directing and sound quality is top notch. Also, just like the first one, characters make very dumb decisions that make you go like, "What are you doing? Just don't do that." But it was still a really good movie, I think.
Okay, this is interesting because from my friends who saw Cruella, yeah, I feel like they seemed to think, kind of like you said, it would be a movie to watch like with your friends if you wanted to like laugh about it. But they were a few kids who saw it that I talked to were pretty ruthless. They were like it was pretty dumb. They didn't like it, but like
No,
it
it
was
is.
funny.
It is
Um,
dumb. Yeah, it is dumb for sure. But I don't know. It's fun.
But I'm interested in seeing. I don't know. I think one of my friends was supposed to see A Quiet Place Part 2, but I don't remember if they actually ended up seeing it or what they said about it. But I remember like I just feel like the first one to me was like a cool concept, but like in actual movie form, a little bit like underwhelming. I don't know. Like I feel like the way that it's marketed as like a scary movie doesn't really feel right to me. I feel like it's more like sci-fi thriller type thing.
Yep. Yep.
So I am interested to see the second one and see if it changes my mind or if I'm still like, the Quiet Place franchise is okay.
I will say the marketing for both of these movies has honestly been pretty terrible. Like seriously, like Paramount is marketing these movies as horror movies when they're not.
Yeah,
Like,
I agree.
there are jump scares, but nothing about it's really like scary or horror.
I agree. I feel like it's just like it's suspenseful and
Yeah.
it's like an interesting premise, but when you market it as being like a scary movie, I feel like I understand that puts a like that gives it a big audience who may be interested in seeing it if you market it as a horror movie. But then if it like doesn't really deliver on that branding, then it is sort of like you got a lot of people to see it, but they might not have liked it very much. I don't know.
Right. Right. Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, you make a very good point there. We talked a little bit earlier about In the Heights. What did you think of that one?
That okay, so I didn't see it, but I think my family saw it, and I heard some of the soundtrack, and like I've heard some of the soundtrack, you know, of the actual. I think it was Broadway production, right before it was a musical movie thing. And obviously, you know, the music is great in my opinion. But I haven't seen the movie. Was it good? I've been like waiting to see it. Somebody I think told me it was a big experience or something like that. So I was like, I guess I'll wait. I don't know, to prepare myself mentally.
It is a very big movie, and I mean that both in a good and a bad way.
Okay.
The same guy who directed In the Heights, it's a Lin-Manuel
Yeah.
Miranda musical, and the same guy who directed Crazy Rich Asians also directed In the Heights. And I will say that his difference in visual flair and directing between Crazy Rich Asians and In the Heights is like astounding. Like Crazy Rich Asians is directed and shot and edited in such a boring, predictable way. But In the Heights, there's actually like rhythm and flow and like energy to like the directing, and it actually feels like a movie.
Yeah.
And I think that whereas Crazy Rich Asians just felt like just funny moments with no substance to it.
I feel
Uh,
like. Oh, sorry. What were you gonna say?
no, you're good. You go ahead first.
Oh, thanks. No, I was gonna say I did hear something though about how people. I feel like I read this online, so I don't know, you know, how much weight to put to it. But I did read something about how like some people were sort of disappointed with the way in which it was adapted from the musical and like some of the casting choices, I guess, because I think this is kind of hard to talk about because I haven't seen either one, but I feel like it was something about how like the original musical is about this like group of people that are all sort of part of the same diaspora. Am I saying that right? Diaspora. I don't know. Some people pronounce it differently. But like in the movie, it was sort of like a mishmash of like different cultural like touch points, and people were like, this is taking away from sort of like the point of the story, which is like this neighborhood of people who are all sort of from the same place and have moved to the US. If I'm getting that right, I don't know. You can.
I didn't hear anything about that. And I also haven't seen the original musical. I did read that, like they did make some like, or actually, no, maybe I did read what you were talking about earlier, where they did, make some adaptational changes to the movie that, make it very different than the play. And they feel like it was done in the play much better. So I don't know. I feel like this type of story I would enjoy as a play more as a movie. Like there's certain movies there are certain plays that I don't think could be translated that well to film, and possibly In the Heights could be one of them. Because I don't know, there were just certain moments where I was like, this would be like, it's cool, like you're doing all these camera movements and all that, but I feel like I would just enjoy, I would feel more emotion from this, just seeing the actors singing or performing on stage.
Yeah, that totally makes sense.
Yeah, but I still enjoy the movie though. Moving on to Fast and Furious 9. I haven't seen it. I gave up on the franchise after 8. I should have given up on the franchise after 7, that with a beautiful tribute to Paul Walker, rest in peace. But 8 was really dumb, so I just gave up on it. I have no interest in watching Fast and Furious 9. I know for a fact you have not seen Fast and Furious 9, so we're just gonna move on.
Yeah, I feel like I saw a bunch of memes about it, but that was it.
Yeah, but yeah, so we're not talking about, to all the Fast and Furious 9 fans out there, I apologize, but we're not going to talk about that movie. I do want to talk about, what's it called? This year, I made a Pixar ranking video, which has over 1,000 views on my YouTube channel, which, again, thank you for all that who have seen the video. And I've also made a DreamWorks animated ranking video from worst to best. And like with a Pixar video, it was just me rewatching a lot of Pixar films, and I timed the video's release to coincide with Luca's release. And I made a DreamWorks video to try to coincide with the with the release of the Netflix movie Troll Hunters: Rise of the Titans, which actually Troll Hunters on Netflix is a pretty good kids animated show made by DreamWorks. But DreamWorks also released this year Spirit Untamed and the Boss Baby 2 Family Business. Yeah, two movies that are definitely just for kids. I do not think adults would get much out of Boss Baby 2 Family Business or Spirit Untamed. And I only watched both for the DreamWorks ranking video, and I kind of regret watching both of those movies. But they both did relatively well at the box office. I mean, Boss Baby 2 made $57 million according to Box Office Mojo. So
Wow.
yeah, let's move on now because I don't want to think about these movies anymore.
Yeah, exactly.
And I know for a fact that you definitely haven't seen either one of them, and don't definitely.
No, I feel like those are both. I think I watched like a long time ago the original Spirit and liked it, but
Yeah.
the first Boss Baby I saw because somebody else like was watching it, and I watched it with them, and I was like, what is going on?
Exactly.
Why would I watch it? So I definitely do not feel a need.
Exactly. But 1 week after Boss Baby 2 came out, Black Widow came out. And did you hear that Scarlett Johansson won her lawsuit against Disney?
I did not, but that's awesome. That's very good.
Yeah. She won the lawsuit, and now Disney will be paying her like the millions that they owe her, basically.
Wow.
But you know, as a controversy of Black Widow aside, I think that the movie was one of the weaker Marvel movies for sure. It was just so like generic, and the action was just kind of boring, and it was an improper send off. It was the Black Widow movie that we definitely deserve better than this. I'll just say that. Florence Pugh is awesome as Yelena, Black Widow's sister, I love Scarlett Johansson, and the whole cast basically I love, but the villain was just so generic and boring. The action was filmed, you know, in such a boring way, and we'll get into good action in a Marvel movie later. But just this one was just it was fine. I honestly think I liked Captain Marvel better than Black Widow, and Captain Marvel was also a very weak and not good Marvel movie.
Yeah, I feel like someone invited me to go to Black Widow, but I was doing something, and so I heard about it from everyone else, and I feel like I saw a lot of memes about it. It seemed like one of those where it was like you didn't miss much if you didn't see it.
Yep. Yeah. You don't have to see it at all, really. You don't have to see it. Speaking of memes, though, Nicolas Cage at this point is just a meme.
Oh yeah.
But he actually delivered a really well done and serious performance in the movie Pig. And yeah, the movie Pig, it sounds like it should be another generic, over the top, cheesy Nicolas Cage movie. I don't know why I suddenly Will Smith's name suddenly popped in my head, but this movie is about a recluse played by Nicolas Cage, whose pet pig is taken from him, and he goes on a revenge quest to find his pig. And he's a former acclaimed chef, who's now a recluse. And the movie, it sounds like it's a really like dumb like premise and John Wick-esque.
Yeah.
But it's actually a really well-made, serious, reflective movie that has some very surprisingly insightful commentary on art versus commercialism. And you know, like Nicolas Cage, he likes making food for, you know, like he likes making the best kind of food, and he's disappointed how many restaurants tend to succumb to like mainstream desires and needs, and you know, he hates like McDonald's and all that stuff. And it's actually a very like, and it also deals with themes of like loneliness and grief and regret. And so the movie, it's not like, like a over the top cheesy, like action-y, kind of movie like many people thought it would be, starring Nicolas Cage. And people are saying that Nicolas Cage should be nominated for an Oscar for this movie. Like, that's how good his performance is.
Wow. I feel like I have not heard a lot about this, so maybe I should go watch it. It sounds fun.
I'm surprised you never heard about it because it got a lot of attention when it came out back in July. That same week though, that Pig came out, also released were Space Jam 2, which is definitely a very memeable movie, and also the Escape Room sequel, which I know you saw, but I haven't.
Yeah. So my family saw Space Jam, like I think through streaming, but I didn't watch it. I feel like I feel like a lot of people were like, yeah, what, you didn't need a Space Jam 2. And there were many memes about it, but I haven't seen it. But the Escape Room one was very it was very it didn't really totally feel original though. It felt very much like a take off of like sort of the Hunger Games. It was like, okay, the Hunger Games had this game where people, went to the death. And then what did the Hunger Games do next? They brought back the people who didn't die, and they did like a tournament of champions. And that's sort of like the whole premise of the Escape Room movie. And so I was like, I liked that they sort of did something different with like pivoting from the first one. But I feel like in the grand scheme of like media, it was very predictable. But I liked I'm like actually a big fan of escape rooms in general, so yeah. I like to see actually like what they do, and it was fun. But I feel like those movies are so weird because it's like genuinely, like if I were in this situation, it doesn't matter how good you are at like problem solving, I would be freaking out and like dissolving into a puddle. So they're not very realistic, but they're kind of fun to see what they come up with.
I actually never heard of either. I never heard of either escape room movie until like a month and a half ago. Like I hadn't even heard of the first one until like almost like 2 months ago.
Wow, I feel like my family, a lot of people in my family like action movies, which honestly I feel like I used to really like action movies, but like after a while, honestly, you see the same tropes so often, and then there's just a bunch of people like smashing each other. And so like I feel like I don't watch them as much, but my family's always looking for new ones. So I watched both of them with them. So that's probably why I know about it. I feel like it's not a franchise that's like, amazing, like earth shattering or anything like that. But
well, I have a friend who I met through Letterboxd who has also been in the podcast, who she enjoys both of those escape room movies and recommended it to me. So I don't know if I'll watch it. I probably will give it a shot, like maybe just rent it from Redbox or find it on some streaming service at some point and then watch it. I'll probably think, it's fun, but not like amazing. Speaking of like fun and definitely not amazing, M. Night Shyamalan's most recent film, Old, came out. And Old I had a lot of fun with the movie, but it's also like awful. Just like a majority of M. Night Shyamalan's movies. There's a mutual friend of ours who's been on the podcast before, William. One of his favorite directors is actually M. Night Shyamalan, and I'm just like, what? Really? But like he genuinely loves all of his movies, and I don't know, just like I guess I get it, but just to me, M. Night Shyamalan's just more bad than good, and Old was bad. I mean, I had a fun time watching Old, like laughing at it, but it's not a good movie.
Yeah, I didn't see anything of it. I like the guy. I think it was Alex Wolff or Nat Wolff who
Alex
was
Wolff.
The main. Yeah, I like seeing him. It's fun to see him as he's like grown up and out of like Nickelodeon stardom. But no, I haven't seen it. And I didn't hear really anything about it after it came. I feel like it was kind of hyped up, but like I didn't hear anything after the fact.
Right. That's also a film that was advertised mostly for its horror elements, but it's more of a thriller.
Okay.
So yeah. Alex Wolff is also in Pig, actually.
Oh, no okay.
Yeah, he has a pretty major role in Pig too. But yeah, Old was just kind of not good. I haven't seen Snake Eyes, but people tell me that Snake Eyes is like really has really terrible like cinematography and editing, and also the Asian representation is pretty poor compared to another movie that we're gonna talk about later on. But I assume you haven't seen Snake Eyes, right?
No.
But both of us did see The Green Knight, and I actually don't know your thoughts on The Green Knight. What are your thoughts on that movie?
Okay, The Green Knight was something. As like, I feel like I got like excited about A24 films like last year. I feel like I got into them, and then like they were gonna release The Green Knight, but because of the pandemic, they didn't want to release it because they wanted to wait till it was in theaters, blah blah blah. And so I have been waiting for it to come out for a really long time, like being excited about it. And I was an English major in college, so I had to read the actual Sir Gawain and the Green Knight for class and stuff like that. And so I feel like it was just like it was so much hype. And then I went to see it, and there was like that sort of beginning section. I was like, yes, this is Sir Gawain and the Green Knight. I'm so excited. This is amazing. Ah! And then like it just sort of, I don't know. I got like, the more that it went on, the more I was like, what is going on? This is a very strange. Like, there were definitely parts of it that I liked, but it on the whole it underwhelmed me, and I feel like you seem to really like it. So I'm curious to see what you have to say.
I have a feeling this will change later on, but so far it's my favorite movie of the year.
Whoa. Okay. Okay.
I really loved it a lot. I loved how like I don't know, maybe this was because I think that Green Knight came out at a point where I actually hadn't seen anything in a while, at least like nothing like that. And like it's been a while since I'd seen an A24 movie, and most of the stuff I've been watching in July was just stuff on streaming, rewatching sitcoms and all that. And so going safely to a theater and watching this very weird and visually spectacular and thought-provoking cinematic experience, in my opinion, was just so rewarding. And a lot of people really didn't like the ending. I loved it. I was like, oh man, that was awesome. I don't get why there had to be a post-credit scene. Like I was, what's it called? Like there's a post-credit scene in The Green Knight, and I'm just like, okay, that's weird. Why is that there? But for the most part, I loved the movie, and yeah, I it's my favorite movie of the year so far.
Oh my gosh. Okay, I don't even know if I knew there was a post-credit scene because I think we just got up and left. Like we
Uh,
were like, it was so like, it was interesting. I really wish what I had done. I wish I had like reread it before I went to go see it, because then I would have had sort of more of like a basis for like what to think of it, I guess. Because the ending, I was like kind of confused because it didn't. It definitely, there were like parts that just like really did not line up with the story, and I was
yeah,
like, I understand why you have to do that, but it was very like confusing, I guess. And I feel like for me, it it fell. This is probably really bad to say, because I feel like it fell sort of along the same lines as this old movie. I don't like, maybe like 10 or 15 years old. We Need to Talk About Kevin. And it's like they are both sort of adaptations of like popular like books or whatever, like literature that I had to read for class, and then I watched them, and like they're very much like art films that sort of like have moments where it's like, oh yes, this is the story I read, and then like other moments where it's like, what are they doing? Like, what's going on? I think you're like really liked sort of the storytelling and cinematography and stuff, but I feel like the part where he was like turned into a skeleton or something in the middle of the woods and it had that really long like pan, I started to get so like antsy and I was just like, oh my gosh, this is killing me. I'm starting to feel like maybe A24 movies should like I started to feel like I was like, part of the reason I was so excited about it was because like I had gotten into A24 movies, but I feel like watching it, I was like, I don't know. Some of their movies are like they're the same. I don't. Does this make sense? Like they like have found sort of their like niches, and they like some of them I like, but other ones I'm like, it's just the same movie, like all these different ways, and like I don't know. I don't know. So overall, I was like, Green Knight. I'm sad to say it was disappointing. It wasn't a bad movie, but I feel like I hyped it up so much, and then like certain parts of it, I was just like, what is going on?
No, I get that. No, I definitely get that feeling. Yeah, it is very different than the original Sergeyevin story for sure. Very like the endings of each story is like completely different. I have no real emotional like connection to the original story. Like I enjoy it mainly as a like cautionary tale, but it's not like my favorite like novella or anything like that. So I think yeah, I don't know the movie. I still really enjoyed it. I think it didn't exceed my expectations. It about met my really high expectations for it. And you know, I think that just I don't know, maybe rewatching it, I'll like it a little bit less. But as of right now, like I really loved it because at that point I was deprived of like really different and strange like or challenging films, and then here was a really strange and challenging film, and I personally was satisfied watching it, and it looks beautiful, like absolutely just gorgeous film to look at. And yeah, I definitely can see, you know, people not liking this one at all. Like the Rotten Tomatoes score for this movie, like critics really enjoy it, but the Rotten Tomatoes audience score is really low. And
I know, yeah.
like yeah, but yeah, like I don't know. I
Yeah.
really enjoyed it, and but I get why audiences didn't respond to it. I'm very surprised though that Suicide Squad didn't get like higher like audience responses. Like it bombed at the box office. Like it barely like it didn't make its budget back at all. And many people contribute that to the, you know, simultaneous theater and HBO release. But I think that it's more than that. I think that, you know, that first Suicide Squad movie with Will Smith was awful. And I think that because of that, people are like, oh yeah, this new one's gonna suck as well. Well, to those people who still haven't seen the new Suicide Squad, let me tell you, it's not a bad movie. It's a great movie. It's super violent and disturbing and gory and funny, and I loved it. And I really loved the new Suicide Squad, but it didn't even make its budget back. And I'm very sad that it bombed at the box office, but I still loved it. It's still one of my favorite movies of the year.
Nice. I feel like it was sort of like underhyped, at least among like people I talked to. Like I just didn't hear a lot about it. And then afterwards, I feel like, yeah, I feel like people were kind of like, it was okay. But I think I watched like the first 15 minutes of it while my family was streaming it, and then I like had to do something, so I left. But like, yeah, I don't know. I also didn't see the first Suicide Squad all the way through because, yeah, obviously, it wasn't, yeah.
It's bad. It's bad.
So I don't know.
Yeah, first one is really bad. Second one is really good. In my opinion, I love Ratcatcher and Polka Dot Man, which is a sentence I never thought I would say before watching the movie, but they're both awesome. After a week after Suicide Squad came out, Free Guy with Ryan Reynolds came out and did really, really well, like really well at the box office. And it's funny that a movie like critiquing, sequel and spin-off mentality is they're Disney's trying to get a sequel made of Free Guy, so that's pretty funny. But I enjoyed it. It's not like an amazing movie, but I had fun. Some of the pop culture references were cute and fun. Some of them were just annoying and unnecessary. Like when Chris Evans showed up, I was like, yes. But then when he pulled out the lightsaber, I was like, okay, this is getting a bit much now. But I enjoyed it for the most part.
Yeah, I actually really, really liked it. I saw it like somehow I had completely missed like every, I don't know, like contextual like trailer or anything that could have like told me what it was going to be about. And I sat down to watch it, and like maybe like 3 or 4 minutes in, someone was like, "Oh, is this the one where he's like in a video game?" And I was like, what? And then like suddenly everything started to like click into place, and like I realized what we were actually watching, because I literally just thought it was like a superhero movie or something. I didn't see like any trailers or anything beforehand. And so then like when he started putting on the glasses and I started like seeing what was going on, I was like, oh, I get it. I thought it was really like fun, and I feel like it reminded me a lot of that movie from like 2006 or 2007 with Will Ferrell, Stranger Than Fiction,
Oh
where
yeah,
he's like a character in the book.
right.
But I feel like this was like a more fun, lighthearted version of that. I feel like that one's a little bit like depressing at points, and it's kind of like very serious. And this was like a fun, like new age video gamey Stranger Than Fiction with Ryan Reynolds and Joe Keery, which I was like, yes, awesome. I love both of those guys, so it was great to see them do their stuff.
Ryan Reynolds actually played a very different character in this movie than what he usually plays. Like, yeah, he still says the quips and, he's still quirky, but like his characters in movies are usually very like sarcastic and kind of rude, but and intrusive. But this character of Guy was actually very like positive and like and wholesome, and yeah, he did kill people in the video game, but like he was like, I really liked him a lot, and it was refreshing to see Ryan Reynolds play this type of character, whereas usually he plays like the sarcastic guy. And I enjoyed it. Was a nice change of pace for me. Joe Keery though, like I liked him as Steven Stranger Things, but they did him kind of dirty in this movie, because all he did in this movie was just spew exposition after exposition, and it was just like, give him more interesting dialogue to say.
Okay, fair. Yeah, I feel like I didn't know he was going to be in it, obviously, so I hadn't seen anything. So when he showed up, I was like, yes! But no, yeah, you're kind of right. I feel like I liked his arc, like, as it got toward the end, and we sort of got to, like, piece together the various small moments that he got. I liked that. And I liked his, like, ending for his character. But yeah, you're kind of right. I did, yeah, I liked how Ryan Reynolds was playing someone a lot more earnest, but it also wasn't like dramatic. It was like still funny.
Right.
I totally agree.
I am so happy though that the movie didn't end with Ryan Reynolds and Jodie Comer getting together. Like, I'm so happy about that. Like, I was worried. I was like, oh no, is this movie gonna end with her like somehow downloading her consciousness into this game and then getting married with Ryan Reynolds or something? And then when she ends up with Joe Keery, I was like, oh thank God. Oh thank God. In the real world, I was like, oh thank God. And then the movie still ends with Ryan Reynolds walking happily into the sunset with his best friend Buddy, and I was like, yeah, I like this a lot more than what I originally thought this movie was gonna end like.
Yeah, I totally loved that. I was like, this was great. Like, there was nothing really terribly sad, but like it ended in a way that like made sense and was like correct for all the characters, and like did everybody like some justice, I think. And yeah, made sense in a way that wasn't like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that this is what they're doing, I
Ryan
agree.
Reynolds as Dude though, Catchphrase. Hysterical.
That was hilarious.
Hysterical. Dude, the audience though, the audience, when I went to see Free Guy in the theater, man, when Chris Evans showed up, people went ballistic. People were like, man, people are like screaming, crying, cheering, clapping. Like my ears still kind of hurt from how loud the theater got when Chris Evans showed up. Yeah,
That
but
was really fun to like see them having also like a lot of YouTubers in there. That was so
yeah.
funny. I was like, what is going on? Like, I guess I should have expected it because I feel like a lot of those guys are like people you see in a lot of movies with like cameos. So I was like, okay, like I should have expected this, but it was
the
still
only
kind
one
of funny and cool.
the only one I recognized was Jacksepticeye. I didn't
Yeah,
recognize him.
exactly. That's what I was gonna say. I feel like Jacksepticeye has a lot of like cameos and random things.
Yeah, but yeah, Free Guy was fun. It did really well. It's not an amazing movie, and a week later, Reminiscence with Hugh Jackman came out, which is a sci-fi movie that was written and directed by the co-creator of the Westworld show, and I love that show. So I was looking forward to seeing Hugh Jackman in this very different original sci-fi movie, and it was not a good movie. It was pretty bad, and it bombed horribly at the box office.
Yeah, I did not like it. I hadn't really seen anything about it, but someone had said, "Oh, let's watch it," and we watched it. I think like a few of my family members and I, and we watched it streaming. And somebody fell asleep, and then my mom and I were like, my mom kept being like, "This is so unrealistic. This is just so like poorly written on like the part of some of these characters. They should not be doing." She was like so mad because Hugh Jackman's character just like didn't do like anything that was like intelligent for so much of the movie. And like I feel like also it was really sort of like a lot of the sort of tech and stuff like felt like it was taking off of like Minority Report, and it
Yeah,
like wasn't that original in my opinion. And like
yeah,
it was just like not I'm trying to think of like I feel like Hugh Jackman, honestly, I don't watch a lot of his movies, but sometimes when I see him in a movie, I don't like them. I feel like that's mean of me to say, but like I don't know if I've seen a movie that Hugh Jackman is in recently that I've like really been blown away by. I don't know.
I really like Hugh Jackman, but yeah, Reminiscence is a real big misstep in his career for sure. Like that was not a good movie, poorly written, and yeah, very disappointing because I was actually really looking forward to this movie. You know, original sci-fi movie starring some actors I really like, directed by the co-creator of Westworld. But it was disappointing, and it bombed horribly at the box office, which I'm sad about. I mean, not too sad about because it was bad, but you know, just very, very disappointing for sure. But now we're going to finally talk about the movie that I've been referencing all up to this point. You know, the movie with great action, Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. What did you think of it?
I loved it. It was so fun. You know, I went to see it with my family because they're like, we have a lot of big MCU people. So they were like, we have to see it, we have to see it. And my friend also had seen it and was like, someone needs to see this so we can talk about it. It's so good. I really liked it. I feel like it was very like, I don't know, it wasn't like a lot of Marvel movies because I feel like I totally understand people being like, the Marvel machine, like it's the same movie all these different times of just cranking out different superhero stuff. And I liked how it was sort of like funny and lighthearted and also like had characters. Like I had seen a lot leading up to it about how people loved the characters because they were like very relatable and young and sort of like silly and weird. And then like I don't know, I really liked sort of the themes of like legacy and like what you do, that people who went before you, like, do you follow in their footsteps or do you sort of reclaim it for yourself? It was just a really cool story and really interesting topic, and I think it was done really well. I feel like it felt to me, I haven't seen like every Marvel movie, but I feel like it reminded me sort of maybe this is going to sound really bad, but I feel like in my head it's like in the same category as Ant-Man. Like it's something that people don't like, nobody is like nobody is like so excited about it, like I don't know, like leading up to, like they're not like the main characters of Marvel or something, like, you know, Endgame, but like it's very funny and like I like what they did with it. I don't know if that makes sense.
Wow, so you think that like Shang-Chi and Ant-Man are like on the same level of quality?
No, not in quality, just like in
Oh,
like the way they sort of fit into the Marvel universe. Like they're like
I
this
see.
other character that hasn't been in a lot of stuff, but they were a very funny movie in their own right, and like they were different from Marvel stuff in general, which honestly I think is good. I liked that Shang-Chi was not just like a bunch of people punching people and like so,
But the punching, oh my goodness, the bus scene, the
yes.
scaffold scene, the action in general. The beginning with the Mandarin and that Chinese woman they would end up marrying and become Shang-Chi's mom. Just wow, just amazing. The choreography is just it like in terms of action, it definitely like has the best action choreography in any Marvel movie ever. It would have been one of my favorite Marvel movies if not for two major flaws I had with the movie. I personally disagree that the movie is funny. In my opinion, this movie is actually one of the least funny Marvel movies. In terms of humor, like almost none of the jokes I laughed at. I think that majority of the jokes in Shang-Chi were actually like tone killers, and the movie would have been much better without Trevor Slattery, without Morris, that little creature thing. And also, I felt like the flashbacks got a bit excessive at some point. It was just like, I don't know, just like, can we just stay in the present at this point? Like, I don't feel like we need to, cut back for this. But my main issue with Shang-Chi is definitely the humor. But the core story about like legacy and family, I thought was compelling. Simu Liu did a good job as Shang-Chi. In real life said some very stupid things, but still delivered a good performance. Aquafina, with her controversial black scent, was actually funny in this movie. Michelle Yeoh is always great. Although it was really, I was so disappointed when it seemed like Michelle Yeoh and Tony Leung were about to fight each other, but then she ended up fighting some faceless goon, and then Tony Leung just kept walking off to free his wife, or so what he thinks is freeing his wife was actually freeing that dragon thing, and it's just like, oh, two Chinese legends fighting. That would have been in a Marvel movie. That would have been so cool. But Tony Leung was great. Tony Leung as the Mandarin is definitely one of the better Marvel villains, better and more layered Marvel villains. I love him in the Mood for Love, and stuff like Hero and Happy Together. So seeing him in a Marvel movie was a delight. I can definitely see why a lot of people love it, and it did. And I'm glad that a movie with a predominantly Asian cast is at the moment the highest grossing movie of the year. And I do think that the representation was good. I just wish that the movie didn't just completely cut out the jokes and or just the karaoke joke was the only good joke in the movie when they were like, oh yeah, we should be responsible and wake up early for a job tomorrow, or and then it cuts to them singing Hotel California. That was funny, but all the other jokes were just kind of just, I don't know. Humor is subjective, but I didn't laugh. I cringed at most of the jokes in the movie, and it was distracting for me because the core like story, I don't know, just like it just could have been better in my opinion. But I still love the fact that people love it, considering of the actual good Asian representation that it has, and I'm very proud of that as an Asian American.
Yeah, totally. And honestly, I kind of agree with you. Like the little Morris thing, like I completely forgot that he was even in there. I feel like you're probably right. They could have lost like that section. But I thought that the jokes between, the main characters were like fun, and I just liked their sort of chemistry, and also their like outlook on life, like being these sort of like, I don't know, like not dropouts or deadbeats, but like kind of in that, like, in that vein of like their parents are like, come on, get a better job, like do more stuff. Like I just liked like sort of I feel like that in itself, and like the way they handled those situations, were like very funny and relatable. So I liked that. But I agree. I feel like some of the other stuff, now that you mention it, I like had completely forgot about that whole like side character stuff. That was, yeah, it probably could have lost that and still been great.
It's still I think it's still at its core a good movie though.
Yeah.
What's it? Malignant, that new horror movie directed by James Wan, was pretty popular. For people are talking about how campy in a good way it was. I haven't seen it yet. Have you?
I actually started to watch it, and then we had something to do because it was on some streaming. I think it was on HBO Max or something, and we had started to watch it, and then we had to stop, and we just never went back to it, which is probably a terrible sign. But I feel like, I guess you say campy in a good way. Like I saw that it was like advertised as like, oh, from the makers of like The Conjuring and Insidious and stuff, and I was like, yeah, this is not gonna be good. Like this is gonna be like dumb. So I mean, I haven't seen it, but I would definitely expect it to be campy and not scary. Maybe people like that about it, but I really don't. Like I think Insidious is like okay. It does. I don't think it really deserves like the amount of hype that people give it, and I think The Conjuring is objectively very bad and like just dumb.
Really, really, you don't like The Conjuring, huh?
I think The Conjuring, like that is. I remember my friends, once we started like watching scary movies together every week, we had this like tradition where we would do that, and like one time when we watched The Conjuring, I almost fell asleep because I was like, this is just like not. It's not scary, and it's also like not. It's like so like based in religious themes, and like kind of campy in that way, like the way in which they like talk about religion and like all this stuff, that I was like, this is just like not compelling and like not relatable and like not scary. I don't know. That's my maybe that's controversial, but I just think it's so, I feel like just the way in which they like talk about religion and like how they sort of are like the ghost hunter type figures or whatever. Like I was talking to my brother, and he was like, it's weird that this is like something that people find scary because it just doesn't seem that scary when it's like so over the top in a lot of ways. And I feel kind of the same way. Like they just the way that they like characterize the whole thing is just kind of weird and like, yeah, like not compelling to me. I don't know. Do you like The Conjuring?
That's interesting. I don't really like horror movies that much. Like the horror movies I gravitate to are ones where either it's like more of a thriller, or if it's like so like campy or like over the top where it becomes like entertaining.
Yeah.
And I actually do. I really like. I haven't seen the third Conjuring, which came out summer of this year, which is weird. Like, why wouldn't they release it in October? But whatever. Like horror movie, in a horror month, whatever. But
Yeah.
I don't know. I enjoy the first two. Insidious is bad. Insidious is pretty bad. I didn't even finish it, but the first two Conjuring movies. Actually, I didn't finish the second one either. Not because I didn't like it, but because I also had like other stuff to do, and I just never got to finishing it. But I actually really enjoy the first Conjuring movie a lot. Yeah, you're right. It is definitely over the top and dumb at points, but I don't know. I really like Ed and Lorraine Warren, and the fact that it's based on a true story. They definitely took a lot of creative liberties with a true story, but I don't know. Just I enjoyed the first Conjuring movie, and I was enjoying the second one, but I haven't finished it yet.
Okay, fair. I feel like one thing when I started to watch Malignant, I feel like one thing I was like, it seemed like it was gonna go the route of like Insidious, where there's just way too much backstory that like doesn't need to be there and
Right.
doesn't like make any sense with like it like you can make a horror movie without any backstory. You don't need to explain like the physics behind like how the ghosts are appearing to these people or something. I feel like that was like one of the huge like flop moments of Insidious, is that they have these like giant like exposition moments where it's like, this doesn't need to be explained and you're making it worse by explaining it. I feel like I would expect that Malignant was gonna go that route from the first like 20 minutes or so that I watched. It just seemed like very convoluted and strange. But
Probably, yeah, probably. Yeah, James Wan is a really good visual director, but in terms of his writing, it could definitely improve. I want to end this podcast with talking about two final movies. The first one is very controversial and hated. Dear Evan Hansen. Have you seen the original musical?
no, but I feel like I've heard a lot about everything. Obviously, I've heard a lot about the musical like in the past, and people, enjoy it and stuff. But I've also heard a lot recently because of the movie. So it's been interesting to see what people are saying. What about you? Have you seen the musical?
So, what's it called? I haven't like seen it live, but I know the story of the musical, and I've listened to the songs, the soundtrack, and I'm about to spoil the musical, unless you really want to see it.
No, you're good. You're good.
Okay, so the musical is about this kid named Evan Hansen with social anxiety disorder and depression, and he's bullied by this guy named Connor. This guy Connor constantly bullies him and makes him feel bad. And then Connor, and then oh yeah, and also Evan's therapist suggests to Evan that he start writing letters to himself, to like letters of encouragement to himself. And he accidentally brings one of the letters to school, and Connor, the bully, steals it. And that same day, he commits suicide.
Yeah.
And Connor's family finds the notes and thinks that Connor wrote the letter to Evan Hansen. Now, Evan Hansen at this point could be honest and say, no, I didn't write. My therapist told me to, write these letters to myself. Connor didn't write this. He was actually very mean to me. But I'm really sorry for your loss. And like I'm sure like he didn't mean all of it. But instead, he chooses a lie and says, "Oh yeah, Connor and I were really great friends. I really cared for him a lot." And he ends up dating Connor's younger sister Zoe.
Yeah.
And then at the end of the play ends with everyone, including his own mother, discovering his lie and him being even more hated. And the movie has a very sad ending with him basically with even his own mother like disowning him, and it kind of and basically the only one and basically this was very controversial. The movie ends with everybody distancing themselves from him and saying like, "Oh, Evan Hansen is a liar and a psychopath." But the one person that forgives him at the end is the younger sister Zoe, which many fans of the musical commonly say was one of the musical's flaws. Like everyone hates him now. Zoe should hate him too, and yet she forgives him. Like what? But that's how the musical ends.
Yeah.
The movie. So basically, they portray Evan Hansen as this very timid, shy, younger than how he actually is as his age, like 17 years old, but he looks younger. But here's where what the movie gets wrong. The Ben Platt, as a young kid,
Yeah.
played Evan Hansen on stage, but they cast him again for the movie, and now he's much older, obviously. So there's this 27-year-old guy playing a high schooler who's supposed to look very young, but he doesn't actually look very young anymore. He looks like a 27-year-old. And also, the movie tries to redeem Evan Hansen a little bit more. And just a lot of people really hate the movie. Like, they're disturbed by this old-looking guy flirting with, like playing a high schooler, flirting with and dating a high schooler. Well, no, the actress is over 18, obviously, but still. But she looks like she could pass off as a high schooler, so
Exactly.
it's still
Yeah.
creepy. And the movie cuts out a lot of the development that was given to Evan Hansen's mom from the original play, and it was just like filmed very boringly, according to people that have seen the movie. So after hearing all this negative reception towards the movie, I actually do enjoy like the story of the original musical. Like, I think that it's actually is like pretty compelling, and I like how it sympathizes with Evan Hansen, but it also calls him out for his awful actions, like his lying and all that stuff. But the movie like really tries to like redeem him and make him like, oh, the absolutely best guy.
Yeah.
Still does all these awful actions. And the movie, the people really don't like the movie. It's doing okay at the box office considering the pandemic, but I suppose like after me describing it to you, you're probably never gonna see it at this point.
Yeah, I feel like lots of people have been like, it's super controversial, obviously because of the Ben Platt thing, which I kind of like. Yeah, I feel like on some level I feel kind of bad because he like did play Evidence, but like it's just not. Yeah, I don't know. It just doesn't translate well to the screen in that regard. But then also like I feel like I read something about how they had like changed either like the order of the songs or like the way in which they were presented, and people were really upset about that because it just like it gives the movie like a whole different tone when like certain songs are like taken out or mismatched with like what's actually going on.
Right.
And kind of like what you were saying, like it makes it all about like Evan in a very like sympathetic way that like really it shouldn't be trying to like be so redemptive for him. So yeah, I basically have heard the same thing. I'm interested in this like more now because I feel like I had heard a lot about it and I like roughly knew the story, but I didn't know like every in and out. And like I had mostly heard positive things about it, I feel like, when it was a musical, but now that it's become a movie and they're like trying really hard to sell it and obviously people hate it, I've heard more bad things about the musical in general now. Like I feel like just like in general public opinion is turning against it as a whole, which I guess I didn't really expect. Like I feel like typically when this kind of thing happens, people are like, the musical was so good, why did they butcher it? But like now I feel like I'm hearing a lot more people just being like, this was crap to begin with, and now they made it even worse, and blah, blah. So I feel like now I'm even more sort of like confused and maybe interested in seeing some of the original stuff just because of all like the controversy it's caused.
Right. Yeah, I think that there is sort of this like hate mentality growing against the musical. Already to begin with, even people who liked the musical didn't like how the ending was like too forgiving. It's like Zoe forgave Evan Hansen, even when she found out that he lied about her brother and basically manipulated her, kind of.
Yeah,
And,
exactly.
And even from the beginning, people that liked the musical didn't like that. But now there are people that are like, sort of like, there are some people that are reevaluating their feelings on the musical after seeing the movie, and they're like, oh, maybe the musical isn't as good. But I feel like there are just a lot of people that are just following a sheep mentality where like they're just hating on it just because it's popular now to hate it. Personally, I
Fair.
think that that's what's happening. But yeah, I'm definitely not going to see the movie. A movie though that you should definitely watch. This came out in April on Netflix, but just like Luca, I also think that this could have got done well at the theaters. The Mitchells versus the Machines.
Oh, I saw stuff for that, but I didn't see it. I didn't watch it.
Yeah, if you like the Lego Movie and Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, you'll like this movie. I love both of those movies, but this is another animated movie produced by Phil Lord and Chris Miller, who also gave us the hilarious Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs. And Mitchell's vs. the Machines is actually, it has very surprisingly insightful commentary on our reliance on technology, but yet it also doesn't portray technology as just, oh, super bad thing. And it actually has good characters, mostly good corporation of internet humor. Some of the jokes are a bit too cringy and over the top, but for the most part, it's actually a very good, funny, and heartwarming film that did really well on Netflix, but I think that it could have done, moderately well if Sony hadn't sold it to Netflix and just released it in theaters.
Yeah. Speaking of things that came out on Netflix that like could have done theatrical like debut. I don't know if you saw it. I mean, it got so much hype, but I think it came out in like May or June maybe was Inside, which then they did do some theatrical releases just
Oh,
for like
Bo Burnham's stand-up special.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I saw
So
that.
that was definitely. Did you see that?
Yeah, yeah, I saw that. Yeah, I really like Bo Burnham, so I enjoyed that one.
Yeah, that was another one that like it was cool that they did do like some just like theatrical like days. I kind of wish I would have gone to one to see it in theaters because it was really interesting and fun.
I didn't know that they released that it re-released that in theaters.
It was only like I think it was just for like special events, but I had like thought about going and then I decided not to, and then I kind of wish that my return to theaters had been Inside instead of The Green Knight, but that's neither here nor there.
Yeah, yeah, no, I get that. I get that. Yeah. Inside, I think that I don't know. This is maybe just me, but because Inside was filmed inside his home, I feel like the experience was enhanced by me also watching it inside my home on
Fair.
Netflix. And I feel like watching it in a theater would have been really like would have made it just look like he was complaining a lot. But like because I was inside my home, and like I could relate a lot more. But I don't know. Yeah, I mean, some people consider this to be a movie, and it's not a movie. It's a comedy special.
Yeah.
Actually, with comedy special that gets very sad and depressing at times, but it's still overall a comedy special. And but yeah, no, I enjoyed it, and I enjoyed most of Bo Burnham's work. Like I think that he should direct more. Like his movie Eighth Grade was phenomenal.
Was
So
so good.
so good, yeah. Like and Elsie Fisher, man, I we need to see her in more like roles like that, like more deep, kind of thought provoking, interesting roles. But yeah, I really enjoyed Inside and Mitchell's versus Machines, and I really enjoyed having you on this podcast. Before I wrap things up, were there any other movies that you saw this summer that you want to talk about?
Oh, we were just talking about right before this that I saw Respect.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Which apparently I didn't realize like it kind of got bad reviews from a lot of people. But yeah, I mean, we had just talked about it earlier, and I was saying, it was interesting, but I think you had commented, and it's definitely true that it sort of seemed to sort of fall into the trap of like being a superstar story where like there's sort of all the classic issues and like drug and alcohol abuse, et cetera, et cetera. Like that's like a big part of the arc, and I definitely can understand like why people were like, Yeah, it's kind of cookie cutter. I liked it. It was interesting. But I also think there were like moments where, I was like, okay, how much of this is really based on a true story, and how much of this is like very much dramatized just to like make a sort of an artificial arc for it. I feel like that's kind of always the trap to fall into when you're doing based on a true story stuff. You want to make it compelling and interesting. But I can totally see how some people might think there were parts that were just like over the top and like not really representative of maybe how Aretha Franklin was. I mean, I don't know the history of her life, but it definitely made me curious to like find out more, because I was like, I don't know if this is really, what she was like in a lot of the scenes and a lot of the moments. But it was interesting, and it was good. I liked it. There were some parts, we were talking about how it was pretty long, and there were some parts where like the music was coming together, and there was like a long sort of musical interlude where I did feel like, whew, this is long. But it is, I really like, the one thing I really like about those kind of movies is like, you get to see a contemporary star sort of do their take on like a legend. And it's really, I feel like same kind of for Rocket Man, like Jennifer Hudson in this was like so cool. And it was just so cool to see like her sing these songs and like get to, see how she interpreted like Aretha Franklin as a character, but also like the music. And I feel like that's something I always wonder about when you see these like sort of musical adaptations of people's lives, is like how these like current stars do their own take on the music. So that was really fun. I liked that.
Yeah, no, yeah, I can definitely understand that. And fun fact, Aretha Franklin actually handpicked Jennifer Hudson to play her in the movie about her. So
Wow.
it's just a shame that it couldn't have been a better movie, right?
Yeah, I didn't know that. Wow.
To answer, just to quickly wrap things up, to answer the question that I asked you earlier, has summer 2021 saved cinema? I would personally say no. I think it definitely revived the box office for sure. There are many movies that made a lot of money and, helped Hollywood now to be able to make more vanity projects and, other stuff, like sequels and all that stuff. But I don't know. For me, like cinema is like not just movies I enjoy, but movies where I want to see again or think about or reflect on or or and feel really passionate about. And a lot of the movies that came out around during the summer, around the summer, a majority of them aren't really movies that I feel like are truly like worthy of being like are truly cinema worthy and are ones that I'll really want to revisit like over and over again. Like a lot of these movies are movies where if I'm hanging out with friends and if they wanted, if it's on DVD and or streaming and they want to play it, I'll be like, yeah, sure, yeah, I'll watch it again. Go ahead. And watching it with friends would be nice. But watching it by myself and really thinking about the characterization or the themes and all that. Many of these movies, I'm just like, yeah, I don't know. So I don't know. Yeah, maybe I'm being a bit too like pessimistic. Like when I saw Free Guy with William and a bunch of our other friends, one of my friends was like, "Oh man, I loved that. Like, wasn't that so good?" And I was like, "Yeah, it was fun." And then he was like, "You're being too critical. You're being too critical about movies, Colton. Like, you should just enjoy them for what they are." And I personally disagree with that. I think that films shouldn't just be enjoyable, but should also, like challenge you and make you think. Like The Green Knight did for me, and for what many of these classic films does for me.
Yeah, I feel like I kind of agree. I agree, like in getting back to the theaters, this was like a good summer for that, but in terms of what was put out, I feel like it was definitely, I don't know, kind of a hodgepodge of like things, some good, some not so good, and some sort of like definite flops that it's like, oh gosh, what the heck happened here?
Right.
But like just in terms of like actually getting to see things in the movies, that's awesome.
Right.
But yeah, no, I totally see what you're saying. And I feel like I'm kind of excited as we go into the fall season to see some of these movies that are supposed to be coming out, because I feel like there are some titles that I'm like interested in going forward, and maybe
Yeah.
more that seem like more cinematic and more like thought-provoking and actually like, I don't know, interesting in a different way than just like going to see a fun movie. And so I'm definitely excited for sort of the upcoming season though.
Yeah, no, me too. Yeah, there's a lot of titles coming out that I'm really looking forward to seeing. I'm looking forward to seeing Dune, Last Night in Soho, Eternals, which is also a Marvel movie, but it's directed by Oscar winner Chloe Zhao, who also made Nomadland and The Writer, both of which I loved. So hopefully Eternals, she's a very indie type of director, so seeing her make a Marvel movie is really interesting. But yeah, there's a bunch of movies coming out that I'm looking forward to seeing that hopefully will be more, cinematic, or to me, what I define as cinematic or thought-provoking to me. Did you have any final thoughts before we wrap things up?
No, I think you're right. Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing, like you said, Last Night in Soho. Also, I really would like to see. I don't know. It's probably not left theaters yet, but Candyman seems really cool. I believe it's a female director that directed something else, but I can't remember what. But I remember seeing her name and being like, "Oh, I'm excited to see where this goes." If I'm correct. It's been a while since I saw the trailer, but I definitely that looked also sort of like I like contemporary horror movies that are like more than just horror movies, like they are
Right.
actually thought provoking.
Yeah.
And from the trailer, that definitely looked like, oh, this is gonna be like a cool, compelling story that's like it is scary, but it has a lot more going on. So I think those two are definitely on my list to see for the fall, and especially for Halloween.
Right. With the pandemic, the theatrical window has decreased significantly. Usually it was like 90 days, and now it's like 45 days, where a movie will be in theaters for 45 days, and then it can go to streaming. So by later this month, I think Candyman will be available to rent somewhere, or on some streaming service. And I really like contemporary horror too, but I'm not really that interested in Candyman personally. But I am interested in you coming back to the podcast at some point. And thank you again for being here today.
Yes, definitely. Thanks so much. I feel like this was awesome to see sort of like the summer in review. There were a lot of movies on there that I like actually forgot I even like saw or like forgot that I heard about. So this was really fun. Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, this was a lot of fun. Yeah, thank you. And thank you to all of you out there for listening to another episode of my podcast, Podcast Racing. I hope that you're all doing well out there, and especially, now with the colder months coming up, staying safe and avoiding the Delta variant. And yeah, I look forward to seeing you guys in the next episode. Bye.
Now this is podcast racing.